white folks react differently when white folks start protesting. People are like, why do y'all have to be so vocal? Easy. Because you're not willing to do it.
All right, y'all. We've got Roland Martin here today. So we've gotten tons of letters written on the barriers Black journalists have faced trying to create a space for themselves at work or really just in the industry, period. And what I love about Roland is that he's taken a very non-traditional route in journalism and did his own thing in order to reach the Black community. So I know this man doesn't really need much of an introduction, but we're going to do it anyways because this is what we do. Roland Martin has been a commentator on CNN, had his own show on TV News 1, and now currently hosts Roland Martin Unfiltered on YouTube. Roland, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
We're glad to be here. Glad to be with you. Let's roll.
Let's roll. Okay, so you've been in pretty much every aspect of the business, print, radio, TV, and I know that you know, as I know, that there can be a lot of mountains when it comes to Black journalists really trying to move up, get promoted, have the opportunities to tell stories on the Black community. And so this first letter that I'm going to have you read really talks about when we lose out on being the one. So read this for us.
Absolutely. It says, on more than one occasion, I've met Black people in my market and talked about the work I do for my stations. Sometimes I get the comment that they love to see one of us on the anchor desk. They want to feel seen and represented. All at the same time, they warn me that the odds of that ever happening are slim to none. Out of more than 30 anchors in my market, only 2 are Black. It's something I don't like to bring up with my non-Black coworkers because they want the same opportunities and don't understand why race matters.
You know, after getting this letter, this was from a reporter who works down in the South, and I thought about just how little representation we have of people of color in the industry now. But when you think about it, it's not just people who are on air, but news directors, those who are in charge of hiring. Sometimes we run into this mountain of we don't want too many Black people up front. We don't want too many of us on TV. So in your opinion, how can we create a successful path for ourselves when there's sort of this refusal from those who are in charge of who goes on TV?
Well, the reality is we have to also be honest. They actually do see color. They see white. You see, that's part of the issue here. So we have to recognize that they actually do see it. They simply don't want us to be in those positions. But that is a fundamental problem. The fundamental problem in media is the same it is in every sector. You largely have white men who are running the industry. And then if you don't have white men, you got white women. And so if you're not in the power positions, if you're not in the hiring positions, then you can actually affect change. See, everybody can run around talking about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you can see all of these, jobs created, but are they P&L responsible jobs? Do they have profit and loss? Are they the ones who are the decision makers? And that's what it boils down to. And that's why in ABJ, I'm a 3-time board member, we've been fighting this issue. And so it's about forcing open those doors and calling folks out and letting them know that this has to change.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about just this, the trend right now with race and culture and diversity and inclusion. We hear those words thrown out really in the industry and on social media too. But read this second letter because I'm interested in how you respond to this particular reporter.
Sure. I was asked if I wanted to do a Black History Month promo for my station. The problem is I don't feel like my station cares about the Black community. I'm one of 4 Black people who work for my station out of about 100, and I'm the only on-air representation. Of course, I always advocate for stories about the Black community, but it's usually met with pushback or I'm left doing extra work to get the stories done on my personal time. So I feel like talking about Black History Month on behalf of the station isn't genuine. But I worry if I don't do the promo, I'm missing out on another opportunity to encourage people to learn more about Black culture and advocate for representation. What would you do if you were in my shoes? Now, if I was in her shoes, I would say, okay, I'll do the promo if we do this.
So you'd make demands.
I'll do the promo if we do this in March, April, and May. Yes. Yeah. So, the point is, if you don't, someone has to be willing to put the pressure on them to say, this has to change. And so, yeah, you want me to do this. I want something in return. And then if you tell me no, that tells me you're not serious about Black history.
Do you think that even though we're seeing this this trendy topic of diversity and inclusion and race and culture, do you think it's genuine?
I think in some places it is, but that's also because you now have more black people who are in hiring authority. Okay, you look at how Hollywood is finally pushing back against the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, having no black members. And then they come out with this big old announcement, we're going to do this, and Hollywood says, nope, not good enough, faster. See, so pressure, look, you can't show me anything in American history that black people did not get without pressure.
Well, read this last letter, because I want to see if you're as shocked by it as I was.
When my company first bought our station, they provided everyone with laminated cards that said our viewer profile. The profile was a Caucasian female aged 35 to 54, has kids under 18 years old or living at home, and didn't finish a 4-year degree, and was highly connected. They wanted everyone to cater their stories to this profile. If a story idea wouldn't apply to this profile or be anything other than what this profile would care about, it would be rejected.
You know, I've never worked anywhere where I was told to cover a specific, so blatantly a specific community. If we're not willing to get out in those communities, are we really doing journalism? Are we really doing our jobs?
Oh, this is no shock because, so let me just give you another different way. I worked at a radio station in Dallas, KRLD. And I remember the edict that we got. There was a lot of focus on this particular part of Dallas-Fort Worth. Well, it was the white parts. You will hear stations, radio stations, newspapers, TV stations talk about we're targeting this sector of our market because that might be the high income market, and typically it is going to be white because they are trying to appeal to the advertising dollars, and advertising industry has always favored whiteness over blackness. They've always slapped a 75% discount on black as opposed to white. That's why they're being told that. That is about money. That's about advertising.
How did you handle that?
I would say I'm not doing that. Let me tell you something. I've always had a philosophy. I start every job with the premise I'm going to get fired anyway. Okay? So 3 things are going to happen. You're going to get fired, you're going to leave, or you're going to stay. So at the end of the day, I could be unhappy, I could be frustrated, I can be angry, but I'm not a parking lot militant. I'm not somebody who's going to only just, this and this and this, talking with coworkers and commiserating over drinks, even though I don't drink. No, I am willing to say something, because if someone doesn't, how does it ever change? How do you check somebody if everything's just status quo? So my whole deal was, I might be interested into that story, but I'm going to do this story as well. You got to prove both at the same time.
Yeah. Well, Roland, I know we're short on time, but I want to ask you, what's your one message, not just to the black journalists who wrote letters in for you today, but really just journalists across the country? At the end of the day, journalists have changed the world. We are one of those powerful institutions in the world. Wherever there's a coup anywhere in the world, they get control of the guns first, the military first, guns, and the media second. So to understand our power, that's where it is. And so what we say, what we report, who we cover, dictates a whole lot in this country. And so what we need courageous journalists. We need courageous journalists outside the building and in the building. We have to understand that our media companies are a microcosm of the world. They are not separated from what's happening outside the building. And so if we don't change what's happening within media, we will never change what's happening in America. Yeah. All right, Roland. Thank you so very much for your time today. I really do appreciate you coming on. Really do appreciate it. Sounds great. Okay. Look forward to the next time. Well, if you're a black journalist and you would like to write a letter, all you have to do is go to everythingwecan'tsay.com, click submit letter, and then follow the steps from there. It's really easy, but even if you're not a black journalist, we want everyone to join in on this conversation. Everything We Can't Say is also an educational resource. You can join us in reading our book of the month, Trailblazer, by Dorothy Butler Gilliam, who is the first black woman reporter at the Washington Post. Be sure to hit that subscribe button to this page, and of course, give us a follow on Instagram at Everything We Can.